All right, I've got 6:31. We'll call the regular meeting of the Common Council to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Seth,
Here.
Andrew,
Here.
Todd Kirking,
Here.
Emma will not be here tonight, Todd Spaeth,
Here.
Cindy. Here. John,
Here.
Crystal. Here. Steve.
Here.
And Justin.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. All right, item number 2 is approval of the August 26th, 2025 regular council minutes.
This is Crystal, and I would move approval of the minutes from August 26, 2025 regular council. No additions or corrections.
Todd will second it.
Okay, we got a motion, and a second. Any other questions or corrections? No? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. Item number 3, council announcements. Any member of the council have anything they wish to bring forward? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 4, which is the first period for public comment. Any member of the public wish to make a comment, now would be the time. Anybody online?
You're good, man.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5, which is a public hearing on conditional use permit application by Vernon Health for the electric message sign located at 507 South Main. And with that, we'll open the public hearing. I don't know who wants to start, but
I can start a little bit on here. This went to Plan Commission. And it's in regard to a electronic sign, went before the sign board first. It's for Vernon Health. It is in combination with a wayfaring sign at the corner of South and Main. So with that, I'm going to tee it up. The Plan Commission basically said that they would approve it on the condition that it would bring it back at the size of 25% of the total sign.
Yep, that's correct. So because it's an electronic signboard, the signboard has to deny it, but they were okay with it overall. But again, they deny it, it has to come to Planning Commission for conditional use. Went to Planning Commission, like Lori had said, and they looked at it. They were good with it, other than there was some concerns, questions on, there's a 25% rule of no more than 25% of that freestanding sign could be electronic variable messaging on it. So they were to take that back to their sign company and make any adjustments to confirm and or make changes to meet those requirements. So they moved it on to you folks, obviously, for the final decision. Nate, you guys did a little bit of research, I think, today. I tried to read through it a little bit, but
Yeah, so
thoughts on that?
Yeah, so just as a way to assist with what was going on, this is the new sign design that was submitted by Vernon Health, I'm sorry, today. What they specifically note here is that the total area of the sign, and for the purposes of this, the sign is everything above the pedestal, the masonry pedestal. So this is what's considered the total area of the sign, and it's approximately 140 square feet. What they refer to here as EMC, which must be like some sort of electronic message component. We'll call it a component. Yeah. Is that what it is? Perfect. Is supposedly 34.5 square feet. And they have the dimensions here. I did ask them, I said, these dimensions of 5 foot 1 inch by 7 feet 9 inches doesn't add up to 34.5. And basically what they say is that these measurements here are the total area of the component, which means there's like all sorts of, I guess, well, it's the cooling vents and the mounting structure is larger than the screen, but the screen itself is 34.5 square feet. So if you're wondering why that times that doesn't equal that, it's because it's including the full size of the whole component. So based on what I'm seeing, like, yeah, if that's accurate, and that would seem like a reasonable way to calculate it, like
That
the
makes
actual
sense.
screen itself, what you can see is less than 25% of the total sign. So yeah, I think that's within what the plan commission was looking for. I don't know if you had any thoughts, chief.
Nope, nope, that was a good confirmation. That was the concern. So that's been addressed. We're good.
Good question, John. Go ahead, Seth, you can.
Just gonna say it looks to be in front of the museum.
I think it was 25 feet south of the existing one, I think is what it said.
We
20.
gotta
by
move
the
it some, yep,
east
we gotta move
corner.
it some due to the
Kind of across
Yeah.
between.
Oh, yeah, they had
light
a,
triangle.
they had a sign, a temporary or portable
Mhm.
sign sitting in the corner by the stoplight, and it was very distracting. I don't know how that ever got put there and why it was put there, but it
Yeah.
was terrible. Yeah.
It was a 1 day
Yeah.
placement, and I saw it the day after they were done using it, and
Oh, okay.
yeah. But you're
But
correct.
it sounded like it was south of what the existing one now.
Why was that one there? I'm sorry, why was that temporary one?
They had that event, that night event. I can't remember what they called it, but they had food and community event.
Event.
Yep. So it was to get the information out about that for the day and the evening.
And my only question was how far back, like, it's not where the existing sign is, it's gonna be further.
We told them
down.
we wanted it moved in far enough to meet ordinance and get it back in as far as possible. There's a lot happening at that intersection.
Right.
Is it perfect? Probably not. Is it ideal? Probably not, but it does fit the window, and they've went beyond what the ordinance would expect them to do.
How much bigger is this than the old one, the present one?
So
It
it's.
Seems like it's a lot
It-
bigger.
It is bigger, but they are removing one other sign, or two signs, so they're moving the one that's there now. And then they're gonna remove the other one down farther to where it used, they had admin entrance, if you kind of know where that's at. That's a changeable message, I think, with the letters. That's getting removed, so at the end of the day, it'll be less signage on Main Street. It's just gonna be more in that one spot, and they're adding the wayfinding's more dominant or pronounced. Which is obviously important for the type of business that they're in. But it is bigger.
Then will, at dark time or nighttime, is it gonna be turned off? I feel like we had other electronic
Right.
signs in town that couldn't
So,
have,
correct me, Lori and Nate, but so, they'll have to follow the ordinance. There is a dimming effect after dark, things like that, to follow DOT rules and things like that. As far as it being turned off at night, typically, because you guys can put conditional uses on, right? You can add stuff or whatever. I don't remember if they said anything at plan about that.
They did not put any conditional uses on it, but I do want to stress that this is the public hearing part of
Sure,
this, so
yep,
don't
sorry.
get too much into the
Every time I get
discussions
caught up.
on what you guys or your thoughts on things, just asking questions and
Yep.
opening it up to the public. And once the public is done making their concerns or comments, then you guys can discuss this.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we did have just, and this is part of like just sharing the story of what's going on. There was conversation at Plan Commission about the dark skies. It's something I brought up because I know that has been a topic that we've been looking at. I know that Sarah's done a good job of trying to address that with some changes to the decorative streetlights. So Sarah did go ahead and reach out to Scott Lynn, who is our contact with that, and he provided some recommendations, quite a bit of information, but if you guys would like to hear them, I'm happy to read them. If you're not interested in that, I can leave it alone, but we do have a little bit more information. The issue that came about at Plan Commission is that for right now, it has to be dimmable. Well, what does dimmable mean? To what degree? If it's not dimmed enough, we need, I think the comment from David was, it would be nice to have like an actual measurement that we're going off of that provides the standard. And so that's what we went, knowing the topic might come up here again. We did look at it, and essentially one of the things they talked about was that at a certain point in the night, the variable message sign just goes off. That was part of the recommendation of, I believe it was after 11. Help me out, Sarah. You got the information, but I'm trying to pull it all up right now. It's in 3 different forms right now.
It was like half an hour after the business closed or 11. I can think it just depended on the context.
And Plan Commission had kind of talked about that being something they would have liked to, we would have liked to have seen, but no, it wasn't included in the original motion. So I think that's a fair condition to
Yeah,
put on
because I
there.
think the ordinance states 10 PM to 6 AM is when it's supposed to be dimmable. But where we couldn't get any handle on it is what does dimmable mean?
I thought the dimmable had to happen as darkness, like as darkness happened, it was supposed to dim with the darkness, and it sounds like this one does.
Right.
A
lot of them do.
Right. The other thing that I guess that was talked about at Plan Commission, just to make sure that everybody understands, there, it sounded like Vernon was agreeable to shut it off at a point in the evening, but they also made it known that if, there was an emergency or if there was information that needed to be gotten out, they'd be willing to work with the emergency services here in the city to put a message up there. Right, those kinds of things. So that was, it's one of those spots where it's a business, but they are willing to work with, local folks to add important messages that need to go out if in an emergency or something was happening, they'd be willing to do that. So that was a positive for it.
So in all fairness, the group from La Crosse Sign Company is doing it, did say that, they said, we know this is a concern. It says the Daktronics Galaxy series is engineered to comply with the industry lighting standard for measuring EMC brightness, which is the electronic messaging component. The standard suggests EMCAs not exceed 0.3 foot candles above ambient lighting conditions when measured at the appropriate distance, depending on sign size. So
Your mic went off.
the International Sign Association also recommends this standard. So he gave some metrics by which they go off of to give us a little bit better information, but it's just a completely different measurement than sort of what Scott said is in terms of nits, which it's a shorthand for candles per square meter, also known as nits, and it says is for this particular area. I think he said nighttime maximum luminescence is 20 nits for that particular area of town.
Sounds good to me.
So those are the measurements we got in between Plan Commission on Thursday and Tuesday today.
You saying the 20 is what is the dark sky night?
That's what Sarah found in her thing, and it was sort of vetted by Scott when he sent it to her. And it basically says during nighttime hours, which commence no later than 1 hour after sunset, measured luminance levels should not exceed the maximum values as shown in this table, and basically gives it for certain areas. It's an LZ1, LZ2. This particular area of town, they're calling it LZ1 because of what's going on around it. It's not really lit up. It's not a very commercial area of town. It's pretty, dark. You have Quick Trip to the south for sure, but it's not like the north side, where you have Quick Trip and the Chevy stores and several other things. So he says 20 nits at nighttime, starting at 1 hour after sunset, and then it should be shut off completely after 11.
So that's something that we could request they do.
It could be. Sarah, did I get all that right? I feel like you're coming up to save me. Okay, thanks.
He's getting exercise. Going
Right.
back and forth.
You guys have put stipulations on when the business closes, shut it down, things like that. This is a unique situation because they ultimately never close, right? VR is always open, hospitals open. So I'm just mentioning that. I don't care which way you go, but it is a different situation than say Quick Trip that closes at 11 or whatever. But they did seem okay with it. VMH did seem okay with, whatever you guys decided.
So, but important to note, Melissa, that the wayfinding portion of this will remain
Correct.
on at all times. That's not
That'll stay
under
lit.
concern here. It's their variable message board, which in addition to playing any emergency messages is promotions and highlights. They talked about like nurses or doctors or whoever that have received awards or recognition that they would like to highlight and things like that. So I think it is a marketing communication tool for them, but I also I didn't get the sense that it was a public safety tool outside of us. For them, it wasn't
Correct.
like, hey, make sure when you drive in here, you keep to the left because ambulance
Correct.
park on the right. I don't think it didn't seem like it was any
No.
really important messaging. It was more.
Well, they
about-
did bring up like the COVID, during COVID and stuff,
COVID,
different things like that,
right,
that they were
right.
talking about.
Yeah.
So.
Health department messages.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I forgot about that.
Vaccine, time of year, I mean, there'll be, I'm sure, that kind of stuff on there.
So does the rest of the sign light up as well?
I believe pretty much the whole sign, other than maybe that darker background,
Okay.
is what I understood.
You're basically asking if the sign is backlit.
Yeah, I guess because do we care how bright that is either, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
If it matches the sign that's right in front of my house, that's been there for years. It's lit, but it's an outline thing to the letters or whatever.
right.
Explaining that right. I don't find, just personally, I mean, the lights shine in my living room and it doesn't bother me at all.
Well, and it's, the emergency and urgent care stuff is important to be lit up well enough that it's very noticeable for people at any
Mhm.
time. So I think that is a consideration. I don't think, but the big white on top might be something that could maybe calm down, but I would expect that emergency and urgent care needs to stay brighter than the rest of it, but that's just an assumption.
We're still in public comment.
We are,
here,
yep.
Or whatever it's called. Public
Right,
hearing. Oh,
public hearing.
okay, that one.
Is there anything else, any other members of the public that wish to add anything? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:48. And we will move on to item number 6, which is discussion with possible action on conditional use application for Vernon Health. Go ahead, Cindy.
Well, one thing that comes to mind. I'm gonna forget what I was gonna say now. No. Yeah. I think of that sign at the south end of town that causes so many problems. And I know it had flashing, but remember people were complaining it was where Hokies used to be. People were complaining it was upstairs lighting up their bedrooms and it was on West Maple Street. And I mean, so I'm concerned that this is so big. To me, it looks like it's huge. And I just think it is going to be bothersome to some people. And my also concern would be the, being able to get rid of, I know we need to keep emergency, urgent care, hospital parking on all the time. But all the other stuff, I wouldn't think we need to keep, maybe Vernon Health, I don't know if it says emergency. Yes, if Vernon Health could be, I just think it's going to be big and it's going to be a lot of light, personally.
Do you,
Wasn't there, I'm sorry, isn't there another picture that you can show that shows a dark image of it? I thought, if I remember right, I thought there was a second page or something. Or my dream, yeah, so there gives you an idea. It just hit me now.
Sure. So it's dim, that white gets dimmer. But again, I think,
Lit up above
Right.
when you look at this image, so it's not all white all night.
Well, if we shut off the big part where the photo is,
Mhm.
that would make a big difference to me.
right, and that they've
It'll
agreed
be
to that.
off at
Like
11.
at 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
Got that off.
What's 11, Nate? You
Oh,
said
yeah,
11
but
a couple of
we-
times.
Says the way it's worded.
You said 10 to 6.
The degree of use of the sign, if any, after normal business hours, which is considered 10 PM to 6 AM, is limited for minimal use. It's preferred. And that means static display, time and temperature, et cetera.
Well, the 10 o'clock mark is you limit what you're using, and then the 11 o'clock thing is that dark sky thing, I think. And that's when you shut it down.
is the parking lot adjacent to that, is that lit up, do you know? Do they have lighting
Yep,
there?
I think there is. I think there's
Okay,
some
so
parts.
it's not like that's totally dark there anyways.
Does that sound right? Yeah,
I can't
Yep.
remember if it was or not,
I
but,
think so.
okay, so it's not like it's totally dark and that this is
probably not gonna make a huge difference. As long as it's lit up already, you know, the parking lot.
You're talking about lights that are going down
Yeah.
compared to
Yeah,
this
yeah,
sign that's just
yeah.
gonna be,
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know, I just think it's gonna, people are gonna go, whoa. I think it should match the, whatever the dark sky guy recommended, your candle knits or whatever they use. Knits.
Nate, at Plan Commission, he was talking, the gentleman from the sign company, and he was referring to knits at
Yeah.
that time. But I don't recall what they.
Is this something that once it's up and lit, they can make adjustments to if we see, if somebody says, you know what, this is way too bright?
It sounded like it.
Can they,
But I
I would
can't-
assume they'd be able to make adjustments to the lighting.
I thought he
According to
talked,
our recommend, or what we would want.
right. I thought he made a comment at one point, this brand has the ability to drop
Mhm.
to a certain level or whatever. But I don't think it's like a turn dial where you can keep clicking it down or whatever. I could be wrong, because he talked about another manufacturer that can only go so low or something. This one can go lower, meets DOT, and he was talking about that, but I don't think it's like a volume knob, right? 0 to 50 or whatever. But at least that was my take on it.
I just thought if it sometime proved annoying or bothersome, that somebody could have the chief could tell him to turn it down if need be, but
We can confirm that. I mean, that might be a question we could say, hey. you know,
Maybe. But I think one thing we talked about at Plan Commission was setting the standards, and then those are the standards, because
Correct.
to the point, and I know where you're going with that, and I agree with you, but I think if a couple people find it bothersome, well, it's within the standard. Right? You know, so we don't want to give the ability to constantly be cranking their tail, telling them, oh, it's too bright, it's too bright. Like, set a standard. And if the dark sky gave us standards to follow, I think that's a fair point.
It's a lot better than what we got today,
Right.
you know?
And then it's a set standard, and if it meets dark sky, I would assume it would be appropriate. And
Yeah, I just go back to the sign in the south end of town. I mean, we thought that then too, but we could not get that guy to do what we needed him to do.
well, I think there's a difference between him and
Well, I
Vernon
hope
Health, who's
so.
been here
Let's hope so.
forever and ever. And the fact that it is a healthcare facility, I think, does lend itself to needing to be visible and identifiable. So,
The south end one was multiple problems, right? And so I won't go into detail. That's not important, but that get your point, but it's not going to be comparable to this, in my opinion, because this sign is going to be following the rules, things like that. There was a lot of issues with that sign, a lot of issues. Best day that happened is when it left. So.
When you show the dark picture, it's like, that makes more sense. I was afraid the whole white part of the top of it was gonna be lit up, but like that, it's way better, where it's just outlined.
You need to make a motion.
we need a motion.
Okay, I would make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit application by Vernon Health for electronic message sign with the stipulation that the message board was turned off at 10 PM and that we would follow, or they would follow the NIT guidelines.
You want me to
Sky.
reread this for you, Cindy? Do you want me to reread this for you? So just to help with the motion, the two items were that within 1 hour after sunset, the lighting for the EMC not exceed 20 nits. And that by 11 o'clock or 30 minutes after the close of business, in this case, it wouldn't matter. So by 11 o'clock, it's off altogether.
So what was the 20 minutes? You said an hour after sunset.
No later than 1 hour after sunset, the EMC would be reduced to be less than 20 nits.
Oh, 20 minutes.
Yep.
Okay.
And then by 11 o'clock, it's off altogether.
Okay, but we could say 10. So,
Yeah. I'm just, yep.
Okay.
So I just, just for information, I just looked this up. It says 20 nits is a very dim display. A smartphone screen is 300 to 400 nits. So 20 is a far cry from
But when is a smartphone screen 300 nits?
when it's on.
Yeah,
If there's
but,
bright.
But your brightness matters
Right.
greatly. So is it
Well,
when it's at, like right now, your phone is high because the ambient light is high.
Sure.
But if it was dark,
It's a general statement. I think it's saying, it says while in direct sunlight, you would need 1,000 nits
yeah.
on your cell phone. So I would assume the 300 to 400 is what you'd have at night. Movie theater is typically 50.
Well, I would say if this is for signage, though, they ought to know what they're talking about as far as the nits go.
Yeah, the next level up is 40. Do with that what you want.
I'm not saying we should change it. I just wanted to get some frame of reference. Because I don't know what a nit is
Okay, so
in this context.
I have it closed at turning it off at 10 PM except for the, what would you call that? The signage, the wayfinding? And then hour after sunset, reduce to 20 nits. I think that's it. Because I said the message board would go off at 10. But then, yeah, I don't know. That's what I said, right? What are you thinking, Lori?
Are you wanting me to reread
Yeah.
what I wrote down?
Probably should.
I have to approve with the condition that the message board is turned off at 10 PM and no later than 1 hour after sunset, it is not to exceed 20 nits. Is that what I heard? Okay.
Do you need any reference to the updated sign that is within the 25%? I think we're assuming that their updated one is the one we're approving.
So it's what, 25% of,
So they provided an updated design. As
25% smaller?
well, it's just this design here versus the
Right.
one they included with in their original package.
Still huge, but yeah,
Big sign.
yes, it is. Okay, so reduce it to 25%.
Well, you just have to note that the new design is the
Okay.
one that.
Okay, going by the new design. Specification,
Got that, Lori?
which is huge, you could add.
So I'm just adding to approve the new design with the condition that the message board is turned off at 10 PM and no later than 1 hour after sunset. It is not to exceed 20 nits.
Yes,
Need a second.
Yep. Got it.
Todd, I second the motion.
Go ahead, Seth.
Lori didn't mention to the modified 25%.
Well, I don't think so, because it's
We
that
don't
sign.
need to, okay.
Because that's less than,
Right.
based on their recommendation.
24%. Yeah, it's a little over 24%.
Okay.
If I could,
As
I just want to make sure we have information. This came in today and again, I'm trying to make sure it's out there. It says the LZ1 or the LZ2, right? It talks about like the type of area it's in, where the recommendation comes from. And LZ1 is low ambient lighting in areas where lighting might adversely affect flora, fauna, or disturb the character of the area. The vision of human residents and users is adapted to low light levels. Lighting may be used for safety, security, or convenience, but is not necessarily uniform or continuous. After curfew, most lighting should be extinguished or reduced. Then it goes into what an LZ2 is. Areas of human activity where the vision of human residents and users is adapted to moderate light limits. Lighting may be typically used for safety and security or convenience, but not necessarily uniform or continuous. So the hard part here is that those two descriptions of areas seem very much the same to me. I didn't hear a lot of things. The only thing that stood out to me as an LZ1 is where you're concerned that flora or fauna might be impacted by the lights being on, right? That's the only difference between those LZs. And the difference between nits is double. One says no more than 20, the other one says no more than 40. Right? So I just want to read that out loud because I'm not an expert on LZs or nits, but from what I can tell, this isn't an area that there's overly concerned about impact of flora or fauna. You're not wildlife adjacent here. And so my only concern with where it's at now, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to backtrack here, is that are we being overly cautious about saying only to 20 nits with 40 nits? Like even in this, it said between 20 and 40 is the recommended area. If they have, I'd just be worried if you say 20 only, and then they put it out there and said, we can't accomplish that. That's way too dim to even be relevant.
Right.
They don't have the ability to go up unless it comes back here.
Then they could come back and request it, which is kind of the opposite of what Todd was saying.
Right. And again, this is all information that's come in fairly quickly. I just want to make sure you have it before you make your vote.
Thanks, Nate. Anything else? All right, if not, so we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 7, right? Discussion, or no, public hearing. Gosh, hold on. Public hearing on conditional use application for property located at 610 North Center Avenue to allow a residential dwelling in a B2 district. And we'll, 7:01, we'll open the public hearing. So.
Do you want to start or?
I can start this one as well. This one also went to Plan Commission. This one is kind of an odd one because they're asking for a residential home. However, it has always been a residential home. It just happens to be in a B2 district. The reason this is coming before you is because their bank will not allow them to get a loan when it's being in a B2 district, and it being a residence. So it's kind of a backwards thing where we're trying to take it out of a B2 district and make it a residence when it's been a residence all along. So I don't know if that's a good enough explanation for this, if you want to take it from there.
Yep, absolutely. So just to reiterate what Lori had said is typically this is not an issue, right? It's always been a house. It can be a house. The ordinance spells out if there was a vacant lot essentially and someone wanted to build a house there, they would have to go through this process because only businesses can be in that B district or whatever. Without unless you get a conditional use or whatever. But because of the bank and their situation or whatever, it's a technicality or whatever, they want that on record that it's got a conditional use to be a house. So again, with planning commission, there's no reason why we wouldn't grant them that because that's what it's being used for. It'll help them get through their process.
Good. Questions? Well, no, we're still in the public hearing. Yeah. Any members of the public have anything they'd like to ask? Close the public hearing at 7:03. We'll move on to discussion with possible action on conditional use application for 610 North Center Avenue. Now questions.
I was just curious if we had a map. I mean, if it's always been a house.
It's a
I
house.
can't see we change
Right.
it, but I
It's
just
not a
curious.
commercial property that was made
I
into a
guess I
home.
could
It's a
put my
home.
map too.
Cindy, it's the house directly north of is it the Hanson house on the corner there by the food co-op? Remember that house that had a lot of issues and got fixed up? So it's the house just north of that.
Right.
On Center. Yep.
Yeah, so we need a motion for that.
This is AJ. Make a motion to approve the conditional use application for 610 North Center Avenue.
Steve, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Another public hearing on conditional use application by Computer Professionals Unlimited of America for electronic message sign located at 1222 North Main Street. With that, we'll open the public hearing at 7:04.
All right, this one also went to Plan Commission. However, it was denied by Plan Commission because it did not follow the size within the ordinance on what this sign can be. I believe it was also an issue with it being in the setback. It wasn't part of their motion, but it exceeded the size that it can be based on the size of the building, I believe it was. So this has to come back to Plan Commission. You guys, if you were to decide, and I'm just telling you all this during the public hearing, but if you do have the option of overriding Plan Commission. However, what I would recommend is if you were to do something like that, that you would send it back to Plan Commission for further discussion rather than just outright saying, yes, it's okay. So I don't know if you wanted to continue on with that, Chad.
Yep, no, so, similar situation, signboard reviewed it. Because it's an electronic variable message, they have to deny it and send it on for potential conditional use through planning. During planning, we'd looked at it. Ultimately, the overall size of the sign is does not meet ordinance. It's bigger than what would be or acceptable. Number two is it doesn't meet that 25% rule we just talked about with VMH. So they would have to shrink it down a lot. The whole sign itself would have to be shrunk, but then the electronic variable message piece would also have to be shrunk by quite a bit. So you could put stipulations on that and say, bring it into compliance, kind of like what Lori had said, bring it into compliance, get your 25%. Probably should still bring it back to planning so they can look at it one more time. But again, that's the story for that one.
And this, it's worth noting here, this isn't even the size of the sign, like
Correct.
we
Wasn't
don't have a
picture.
good representation of what the sign is even gonna look like. This is just something similar-ish
No.
that he brought forward. So that's part of the reason it was denied, was there was no reference even to even try to put in conditions on it. So
And it sounds like this property is owned by Spanky and
Correct.
that he would comply to whatever, he knew that it was in the street right away or within the setbacks that.
Right.
So I talked to
That's
Spanky
kind of-
about
yeah.
this, and his point was like, this is the business that's renting it that's wanting to put
Yeah.
in the sign. So
Right.
he was kind of hands off of it, and whatever he wanted to apply for, if it met the requirements, he was okay with, but this one does not.
Yeah, it sounded like he was gonna have the sign or pay for the sign to be built, except for the insert.
Yeah.
So that sign's gonna be there. It's a permanent sign other than maybe just a changeable insert. Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that setup or whatever. You mentioned setback. So this has been a long process with this property. They had originally gotten approved for a sign. They started putting the sign up. They did put it into the right of way. So that's the piece that probably what Lori and maybe you'd heard or whatever. So ultimately that got stopped and tore out. Someone new now owns the building, which is Spanky, and someone now new is renting the space or whatever. So they're taking another shot at getting it right. They've got a ways to go, but they're getting there. So setback should be fine. There was a drawing or picture page before this that showed it. The setback's better this time than the first go around and should be okay.
Cindy, I make a motion, we deny the condition.
hold on, we're still in
Still
public
in
hearing.
public hearing.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was listening. Is there any other questions from the public? All right, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:08, and we will move on to item number 10, which is discussion with possible action on conditional use application for Commuter Professionals Unlimited of America. Go ahead,
That
Sam.
is a mouthful.
Seth.
I'd make a motion that we deny I guess I don't have it in front of me, but the conditional use for the sign application.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All
I'm
those-
basing my decision on the plan commission turned them down, the sign commission turned them down.
I think in this instance, it's probably the right thing. Yeah, yep. All right, anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 11, review and approval of certified survey map, Roland Johnson.
Everybody's still looking at me. This also went to Plan Commission. They were very busy that night. This is a certified survey map where the lots, there's, I believe it was 16 lots that are, that the original owner wanted to complete, has not completed it, and now Vic Meyer Wangen is going to be taking that over. And so that is what this plat is telling them about that. So it's kind of making it more official. Do I have anything else more to say on that? Really?
Trying to figure out where this is.
So do you know where, so if you go back behind the school and where the new, like where Weston, where Tom lives back there? Do you know where Raleigh lives? Raleigh Johnson, back by the football field? So it's to the south.
Straight across Sidey Hollow Road up on the hill.
Yeah,
Past your
Driving out to
place.
School.
right there, Nate.
In the packet too, Nate, there was
Straight
another
off
picture
Education
too.
Avenue.
Yep.
This is Todd. I make a motion to approve the certified survey map for Allen Johnson.
This is Seth. I'd second.
I got a motion, and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 12, review and approval of special event permit for Fox and Beggar on 10/2/25. It's not Lori. Nate, you're up.
Thank you. Yeah, so new special event, they submitted, sorry, we gotta get through all these CSM. They submitted for a special event permit, to use Eckert Playground. Kale discussed it with a couple of their representatives, and essentially the setup is gonna be the same as the Driftless Music Festival, in terms of where the show is versus where the audience sits and things like that. They have a mobile platform that they bring in, and I think from Kale, who's online right now, from his perspective, it was fine. It's a free event. They've been here in the past, back in 21 and 22, but they were at the Commons, and so now they're trying to be outside. Seems like a nice free event. Between Kale and I, we had no concerns over approving it. The only that they didn't want to rent both shelters, and the policy has been when you're doing a special event that's for the entire Eckhart Park, you need to rent both shelters, because it's just the policy that we've had in place, and it certainly helps fund the park and the extra work that goes into making sure the space is prepped for a special event. So contingent on them renting out both shelters and paying the appropriate fees, I would recommend approval.
So you're waiving the rental of the park shelters? Is that?
No,
You're making them do,
they were
okay, I
making-
see, yeah.
They were making an argument that they shouldn't have to
Oh.
pay for the second shelter, and that
Okay.
they were asking for either not having to do that or for us to waive the fee. And
Oh, okay.
certainly it's Park and Rec policy that pretty much everybody pays that fee. And that's something set by the committee. And in this instance, I would also recommend you enforce the policy that you have to rent both shelters if you're gonna do a special event across the park.
And just in case anybody's wondering, the bathrooms in Eckert Park won't, I think the plan is to get them winterized by the 15th of October. So they'd still be open at this time.
Thanks, Nate. Any other questions? We could use a motion.
Thought I'd make a motion to approve the special event permit for Fox and Beggar contingent upon the rental of both shelters.
Say I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion, and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Number 13, review and update on comprehensive plan.
Yeah, so I'll take this one real quick, just in the interest of time. The planning consultants have been very active. They were here yesterday for 2 meetings, one to discuss the historic preservation plan with the Historic Preservation Commission, the other one to discuss the comprehensive outdoor rec plan with Park and Rec Committee. And then they were here just before finance today to sort of have a public input / public information session to sort of go through all the plans and just kind of hear what people were thinking. We had pretty good attendance, especially given the time. I think we're struggling at this time of year just because how many meetings we're trying to cram in, not to mention the fair starts tomorrow, which really limits the window we could fit these meetings in. But we had about 30 people between in person and online. Conversation was good. We are heading into sort of the back end of the planning process. All the draft documents are online. I don't think I made a special point to say, hey, folks, look at them. I think it was sent to Park and Rec and HPP, but I'll redouble my efforts to make sure they're in front of you. And I will say there's a lot of information there. Each plan is on average around 85 to 90 pages. Granted, some of that is some tables and things like that. But it's dense information. And I think one of our consultants says, like, by design, it's meant to be a lot of information because it's trying to be comprehensive, both in terms of the comp plan and the outdoor plan and the historic preservation plan. So they're trying to not miss anything. And that was a lot of what we heard from the public is like, hey, good job, but you're missing information on this and you're not going in depth on that as much as I would like. I mean, any one of these topics could be a paper in of itself. So what I would suggest at this point is really start to dive into that as elected officials, review them, make sure you're comfortable. If you're short on time, go to the end where it talks about the action steps, objectives, mission statements, values. That's really where the key, like, rubber hits the road. They are probably 80% done at this point, and the goal was to get the drafts out so that people could react to stuff. Like, give folks something to see and react to, and then start. That really helps engender more conversation. So that's where we're at right now. They're really trying hard to like finish and meet the deadlines of having everything wrapped up by the end of the year and getting things through public hearings and stuff like that. Cindy, I, and Kale meet with that group every other Monday. And we'll have another meeting to do an after action report. But I think it's really important that you guys start looking at what's in these plans now, because we want to make sure that you're comfortable with what they're calling for. Kale and I are going to have a meeting and talk about the park and rec plan, because now we're really seeing all the different action steps, what that entails. There's a ton of action steps for the HPP. I think the historic preservation plan, I said to Cindy yesterday, is like, that's a lot of work. That is a lot of things to think about. Yeah. And so because this is something that we're going to use as a guidebook for the city, I think you folks really need to get your eyes on it, spend some time reading through these, and really the time for feedback is now, right? And saying like, I'm really concerned about this, or I don't think there's enough here. That's what we're looking for. And the public's done a good job of providing input, and we really want to make sure when it comes to you, you've already have been generally agreeable with what you're seeing. Okay. Any questions at this point?
You might mention about implementation of it, that those steps haven't been written yet because they're waiting for us to finalize the
Yeah,
action item.
there's a section of it called implementation that says, okay, we created this plan. What's the plan for implementing the plan? And so that's a section in itself. It's not there yet. There's a lot of it that graphics and other things that they're going to be working on adding, but there's certainly a good meat to the document now that is worth a review. Okay. All right, that's it, I think, for them.
Any questions for Nate on that? Thank
Kale,
you, Nate.
anything from you? Kale is online. Kale, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Thanks.
All right. Nothing else? You're good, Nate? We'll move on. All right, moving on to item number 14, which is review of the 2024 audit.
Kim Hollerman from Johnson and Block is online with us. Kim, can you hear us okay?
Yep.
All right, Kim, I do have the document, your presentation you sent on screen. I'd be
Okay.
happy to scroll through it as you would like. And so feel free to take it away.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Nate. Okay, so I guess if you want to jump to the next page, Nate, sorry. We've completed our audit of the city for 2024. We issued an unmodified opinion, which is just a normal, clean audit opinion. The scope of our audit included all funds and activities of the city. We have prepared and filed the regulatory reports with the Public Service Commission as well as the Department of Revenue. And then I believe everyone should have received a copy of the audit report as well as a separate audit communication document that's meant to be read in conjunction with the audit report. Sorry, yeah, now you can jump to that one. So just a few internal control notes that we found. I think pretty much all of these have been repeated over the past years. Account reconciliations. The staff there do a really good job and they improve every year reconciling accounts, but there are still a few out there that aren't necessarily reconciled at the end of the year. So just make sure they're reconciled monthly, and that'll give the board more accurate information. Custodial credit risk, your year-end deposits exceed the FDIC insurance limit, so we just recommend obtaining some collateral. WRS payroll liability, same thing as kind of the account reconciliation. It's just a larger liability that we look at. So just making sure that's reconciled. Capitalization policy, there was an increase in October of 2024 at the federal level that increased the single audit thresholds, capitalization threshold from 5,000 to 10,000. So we've just been recommending clients increase their thresholds as well. And then there were 2 material weaknesses. Again, you've had these forever, and they're very common for entities of your size. Segregation of duties. The staff at the city do a really good job of segregating a lot of the tasks, but it's just not quite enough to not have this finding. This is all the more reason the board should be involved with approving invoices or journal entries, bank recs, looking at stuff like that. And then material audit adjustments. Again, kind of with the account reconciliations, the staff do a really good job at asking questions and making these entries every year. So there's always seems to be less and less entries. So just continuing to work on those.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
When you say the board, you mean the council?
Yeah.
The segregation of duties, we're supposed to be involved somehow in that stuff? Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be like the finance committee, just as far as reviewing and approving invoices, things like that.
Yeah, and we do that with the basically review of the bills. Like we go through every bill, we make sure those are available to you, that we not only approve them at finance, but we approve them at council as well. There's probably some other things that we could try to, like as Kim said, like journal entries and other activity, accounting activity, we could maybe work on highlighting some of those things, but for the most part, that's why she's saying to get you guys involved, is because it's me and Lori and Cheryl and Joy and Sarah, and so there's just not enough people to divvy up things to have as many checks and balances as what is preferred, and that's why they would, another layer of security and transparency is having council involvement in finance. Is that about right, Kim?
Yep. Perfect, Nate. Okay, so we can jump into the numbers here. So on page 4 is your income statement for your governmental funds. So I'm kind of just going to go over the general fund and the totals on this page. We'll touch on the TIF on another page. So your general fund, you had revenues of 11 million, expenditures of 12 million, other financing sources of 3.9 million, for an increase of 2.8 million and an ending fund balance of 4.5 million. And then overall for your governmental funds, you had total revenue of 13 million, expenditures of 14.6 million, and other financing sources of 5 million for an increase of 3.4 million and an ending fund balance of 5.7 million compared to the 2.4 million the year before. And then page 5, we'll talk a little bit more about the general fund, and we have the budget to actual. So for revenues, you budgeted 4.8 million and you actually had 11 million. So a positive increase there of 6.1 million. Majority of this is related to the North Point project and the ARPA funds that were received there. Excuse me. And then expenditures, you budgeted 5.1 million and you had expenditures of 12 million. So negative variance there of 6.9 million. Again, there's that capital outlay line has a large variance that's related to the North Point project, as well as I think the fire department. And then your other financing sources and uses, you budgeted 266,000 and actually had 3.9 million. So a positive variance there of 3.6 million. That you can see the proceeds of long-term debt, that's your largest variance there, and that's related to the fire building debt that you took out. So overall, a positive variance to budget of 2.8 million.
Kim, are you okay if I jump in here and just provide
Yep.
some context?
Yep.
So just for everybody's sake, this is really important. And when we went through the last rating for our borrowing for this year, we looked at the 2024 budget and it was in our rating letter. But I'll just kind of reiterate some things. So number one, you can see we're doing a heck of a lot of activity in this line, but as Kim noted, there was part of that is $4 million in ARPA funds that was for the North Point project where we essentially acted as a pass-through to them. And so that's what you see both here in the intergovernmental revenues and also in the capital outlay. Okay. On top of that, we had a bunch of other ARPA money that was stuff for like speed boards and websites and other things of that nature that also came in there. And it was sort of, hey, this is your pot of money. And then we spent it last year. So wondering why you're seeing a lot of major variances, that's why. There was money for Park and Rec out of ARPA in there, or I think we seal coated some trails, I think we did the parking lot, perhaps the trails and parking lot. There was the body cams, the first year of body cams that we purchased out of that. So there's just a lot of activity that was like grant funded. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these major variances. In addition to that, we were very successful with grants. I think Sarah got LRIP money, the bike and pedestrian plan money, the aid for the taxi cab really inflates that as well, because we received a lot of like third and fourth quarter 2023 and 2024. That's always one of the biggest problems with the taxi cab funding, not the taxi cab itself. The taxi cab funding is just how delayed the DOT is in getting us both the state and the federal grants that we receive on that. And I just want to point that out because that really does inflate numbers from one year to the next. So just some highlights there. We'll go to the expenditure side, and that will help explain some of why revenues seemingly we're doing gangbusters. Is here in general government, the big reason there is generally three things. Number one is airport fuel count. We budget as best we can for airport fuel count, but because it's on the checking account, it sort of is its own thing. But they spent 61,000 additionally in fuel for their fuel pumps, you know, what they sell than what we budgeted, but they also made 51,000 more. And it's just the reality of that's an account that really fluctuate based on demand of gas, and we just haven't nailed that down yet. So that's part of the reason why. Other thing is building inspections and tourism were off the charts last year compared to budget. And so that's a lot of why you see general government the way it is because for building permits and tourism, yes, we're bringing in more money, but that a lot of that has to go out in the form of additional expenses, right? Because tourism, we have to give 70% back to the Tourism Commission. Building inspection, yes, we bring in more revenue, but the majority of that goes back to GEC for actually performing the work. So my point being is general government looks rough, but everything there is offset with revenue for the most part. And that's where you see in like public charges for services and I think even in some miscellaneous revenues. Health and social services, the change there, why we're off is 40,000 was because the taxi cab expenses were over budget, but the revenue we brought in was significantly more as well. And that's why this year, if you're on the budget team, I spent a lot more time trying to really figure out what's going on with the taxi cab revenue and expenses. But again, I wouldn't be overly concerned about there because I think we brought in I know we brought in much more revenue than we did in expensive this past in 2024. The other thing there is part of health and social services, as that's shown on this particular sheet, combines in the cemeteries work. And so the way that the cemetery works, and you can see it on a different sheet that I have, is that there's $139,000 that they spend in excess. We don't budget for their operations. So they're $139,000 over what we budgeted for, but they also have a revenue stream of their own that helps offset that. So like when you look at what's referred to as the combining statement of revenues and budget that includes the cemetery, they ended up being $14,000 or almost $15,000 net positive in their budget. So again, I wouldn't be concerned about the $139,000 because they brought in an additional 63,000 in public charges for service, 10,000 in interest, and 14,000 in miscellaneous revenues. And that's all sort of buried within these lines as well. So that's part of the reason these variances are so favorable, because the cemetery does their thing, gets combined in on this particular sheet, but we don't budget for them. So everything is seen as a variance. After that, you'll just note that We have a lot of, again, we already talked about capital outlay and the cost that comes with borrowing. This right here in terms of miscellaneous revenue and interest is also really good because we were holding on to that extra cash for so long and invested, and we're very successful in doing so. So, the last thing, and I really want to make sure everybody understands this, is that at the end of the year, it's showing a $2.8 million surplus, and we didn't do that great. Part of it is just timing of projects. So there's a handful of things that I'll read off here, and this was part of the S&P audit. One is that $2 million, over $2 million of long-term debt proceeds for the fire station was borrowed, but not yet spent yet at that point in 2024. $95,000 plus in funds that were raised for the library community room project had been raised, but haven't been spent yet. $73,000 in funds had been raised for the welcome center, but not been spent yet. So again, this is 2024. $132,000 is the net difference on room tax, tourism, building permits, inspections, taxi cab grant, waste and recycling. We were over there, but we had more revenue to back that up on. So there was a lot of those that were what I refer to offsetting revenues and expenses. But we did net positive better. So that was actually somewhere where we performed really strong. 162,000 additional in interest income. And we continue to get about 46,000 a year in sidewalk special assessments, where we're being reimbursed for the work that we've done multiple years ago. So some of it, I think we had strong budget performance, but I also think those numbers are inflated because of the timing of capital revenues coming in before capital expenses are happening, particularly on the fire station, the bathhouse, and the community room project. Okay. So don't get too excited that we are going to be $2.8 million net positive every year, because that's not how it works. Any questions on that? Okay. And I think, Kim, you can take the reins back.
Okay, so the next page is a breakdown of the governmental fund balances. So you had non-spendable fund balance of 177,000, or about 3%. Restricted fund balance of 3.4 million, or 59%. And there you can kind of see that fire station money makes up a big chunk of that this year compared to the last year. That's that bond, or that borrowing money that has not been spent yet. And then assigned fund balance, you had 701,000, or 12%. And then unassigned fund balance, you had 1.5 million, or 26%. And then just a note on that, we typically recommend having about 2 months of expenditures that you're budgeting in your unrestricted fund balance. And if I calculate it based on the 2024 budget, you had about 3.5 months. So you're sitting pretty well there. Okay. And page 7 is a breakdown of the revenue. So 29% of your revenue came from taxes and special assessments, 61% intergovernmental, 2% miscellaneous revenues, 4% public charges for services, 2%, oh sorry, that was 4% for the last one, 2% penalties and forfeitures, licenses and permits, and 2% interest income. And then there is a note below about the significant intergovernmental revenues. So obviously that ARPA funds for North Point is kind of skewing the percentages this year. Okay. Page 8 is a breakdown of the expenditures. So 12% went to culture, recreation, and development, 9% debt service, 11% public safety, 9% public works, 7% general government, 49% capital outlay, and 3% health and social services. Again, capital outlay is skewed with that North Point money being in there. And then a note down below, the TID projects are also included in that culture, recreation, and development number. And the expenses in 2024 was about 873,000. Okay, page 9 is just a 5-year comparison of governmental expenditures. So here you can really see that capital outlay number fluctuate from year to year. Other than that, most of your expenditures have stayed pretty steady. There was some flux in 2021 with your public safety expenditures. Okay. Page 10, we'll move on to the TIF districts. So you had total revenue of 1.3 million, total expenditures of 1.8 million, other financing sources of 1 million, for an increase of 534,000, and an ending fund balance of 595,000 compared to 61,000 the year before.
So just real quick notes on that, when you look at balances for some of the TIDs, TID number 4 is showing that negative balance of $800,000. And the reason that is that way is because there is a repayment owed out of that will be generated over a number of years for the, I believe it was the North Rusk project. Oh, Sarah left. It was for the North. Oh yeah, Cheryl's there. So it was for the North Rusk project. And so that's money owed to, I believe, the sewer specifically. And so it's showing up there as a negative balance because it's an obligation. And then conversely over in TID 7, 670, and again, this is end of 2024, it's showing a $670,000 balance in that. That is because we're holding land in the rural business park that is up for resale. And so they're counting that as part of the balance of basically future proceeds. So just want to point that out as you look at these balances, that we're neither in a detrimental hole on TID 4, nor are we sort of flush with hundreds of thousands. I shouldn't say flush, nor do we have hundreds of thousands of cash sitting around in TID 7. Those are made up of, essentially assets and liabilities.
The next page just has some more information on the TIDs. I'm not really going to go into detail. The top part is your equalized values. There's some information on the termination dates. And then that next paragraph kind of has more information on what Nate was talking about, the interfund payables and advances on TID 4 and TID 6 with the water and sewer utilities. And then the next page, we'll jump into the utilities a little bit. So your water utility had revenues of 1.3 million, operating expenses of 888,000, non-operating expenses of 12,000, a small capital contribution and transfers for tax equivalent of 218,000 for an increase of 186,000 and an ending net position of 9 million. Your sewer utility had operating revenues of 1.6 million, operating expenses of 1.4 million, non-operating expenses of 43,000, capital contribution of 429,000 for an increase of 585,000 and an ending net position of 10 million. And then the golf course had operating revenues of 585,000, operating expenses of 544,000, non-operating expenses of 27,000 for an increase of 14,000 and an ending net position of 557,000. So overall, ending net position of 19.6 million compared to 18.8 million the year before. Okay. And then the last page is just a breakdown of all of your debt. So the top part is your governmental activities, so your general fund, TID. So you had notes, bonds, a land contract, a premium discount, tipper bonds, and then compensated absences and termination benefits. So you had a beginning balance of 11.8 million, increases of 4.8 million, payments of 909,000 for an ending balance of 15.6 million, of which 909,000 is due in 2025. And then your utilities below, you same thing, have notes, bonds, a premium and discount, compensated absences and termination benefits there. So beginning balance of 13.9 million, increase of 19,000, payments of 648,000, and an ending balance of 13.3 million. And about 1 million of that is due in 2025. And then just the note down below just talks about your debt limit. So the debt limit was 22 million. You had 11.4 million that was subject to that limit, plus the 300,000 of the golf course loan that is guaranteed. So you had about 10.3 million that you are able to borrow at the end of the year, or 47%. So any other questions?
I don't think so.
If you ever had a chance to read the audit, it really tells a story. So I would highly suggest that if you like numbers and you have spare time, take a look at the full document. Kim did a nice job of summarizing there, but the group between Lori and Cheryl and Joy and everybody else, when the audit time comes, it's all hands on deck, and they do a really nice job working with Johnson Block on getting this done and having it available to you folks in the public. To help just with general financial transparency and management. So thank you to those groups who helped with that. And if you guys ever have any questions, ongoing questions about the audit, what you read in there, by all means, reach out.
Great. Well, thank you, Kim.
Thanks.
You bet. All right, if there's no other questions, we'll move on to item number 15, discussion of possible action on Vernon County Municipal Solid Waste Agreement.
This was included as part of your packet. If you'll recall, was it a year ago around this time that Stacy Sanborn from, that's her last name, right? I got that. From Vernon County, is it Municipal
Solid Waste?
Solid Waste, thank you. Came forward and talked to us about I guess at that point it was an MOU, but it was some sort of agreement that basically asked us to commit our waste to their landfill for a discount of some sort. I think that it was like $2 off the existing rate. And so what they've done is they've recently pushed this out. They actually sent it to all the communities, are asking folks to sign it, and actually used our contract with GFL as an example of what other communities could do if they wanted to implement language into their waste and recycling contracts with their haulers, which I thought, oh, thank you. Means somebody thought something of it. But this is before us. If you have looked through it, in a nutshell, it basically takes what we're paying currently, was $60 a ton, and puts us in a position where we would continue to receive that amount per tonnage through this next year, right? So this is effective through 2026. And would then, as long as neither party does a formal written notice of non-renewal within 60 days prior to the last day of the then current term. So we would have to notify them within 60 days of the end of 2026 that we didn't plan to renew. We would continue to receive a $60 rate for the next 5 years. Okay. But there is a sort of like an opt-out agreement that we either can say we're out by 2026, or then we would have to say we're out by 2031 or something to that effect. So it's an interesting sort of situation here. And my opinion on it is that it essentially legally obligates us to do what we're already doing without providing any incentive to do so. I spoke with the mayor, and I essentially, the conversation he and I had is like, we enjoy our arrangement with the county right now, as long as prices continue to be what they are and it's financially viable for us on behalf of our citizens who pay the landfill fee, as part of what they charge them on their water bill, right? Or as part of their water bill. And as long as that remains consistent and the service we're getting from them remains consistent, we'll continue to do business with them. I don't see the need to enter into a contractual relationship if there's no real benefit to the city to do so. So, I mean, that's my take on this. I would assume that part of the reason that this is out here is because the county is trying to maybe get a pulse on who's all willing to commit to their landfill long-term and possibly use that as reinforcement as to why the expansion of their landfill is needed. But again, what it does for the city, I can't tell you, and I don't believe there is a benefit other than showing our support to the county, which again, they have it for right now. And as long as the relationships remains as is, I don't know why we would deviate from that. But I think it is important that the city not willingly give up flexibility, right? Because when we talk about budgets and it's flexibility is a key strength that we have right now in the current agreement. And I wouldn't want to give that up. It's one more thing to track. And altogether, it just seems unnecessary to me, but that's my take on it. Mayor, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
Well, yeah, it's typically when we enter into long-term agreements with whatever we're entering into, it's because there's a detailed financial positive to do it. And if you scroll back closer to the top of this document, Nate, that's absolutely not the case in this one. Section 3A says that this rate is subject to change, and the county will in its sole discretion establish the rate based on the defined criteria, which will include yada, yada, yada. So there's no, it's us signing a contract to continue getting what we're getting with them having the ability to go ahead and change it at any point. And again, it's not that I don't want to do business with the county. I think the way that things are working out right now are really great. And if that continues, it's certainly worth continuing to work well with them. But to Nate's point, I think getting into a contract that doesn't give us a defined multi-year financial plan, there's no benefit to get into the contract, would be my position as well. Nate and I are very much aligned on this one.
And furthermore, and I think it is noted, and I don't know what happened today, but I believe that the county actually had a conversation this morning about the need to increase that rate from $60. So they're already talking about increasing from $60. And so there's no security for us. We're not locking into anything. And to Mayor's point, if it was, hey, we'll give you a 5-year contract, we'll commit to $60, you stay with us with 5 years, this is what you have. That's something, because we're both obligating ourselves and we can ensure that we're locking into that, but that's not what this is.
Can we counter them? Or can we give them an option?
Well, I think we can just let them know that this was denied. And if they're interested in, talking, we're certainly willing. And Nate and I have done that in the past already. We've met with folks from the county and we've had conversations with them, because the point is not that we don't want to do business with them. It's just that this particular agreement doesn't do
Very
us
open-ended.
there's not a lot of benefit to the city, and we really need to make sure that we keep ourselves in a position to be flexible if we need to be. And if they come back with, well, what if somebody from the county is on this meeting and they hear this and want to come back with, yeah, we'll do $60 a year for 5 years, then maybe we need to bring this back and have a serious conversation here. But as of right now, I don't. So thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
So essentially it's a 1-year deal, but then if we didn't terminate, it'd be a five.
Yeah, and that's my biggest concern. Like if we get through this next year, it's hunky dory. We go into the next 5 years, and then based on what it says right now, the county could change the rate, but we would, per this contract, still be locked into it until we could know that we're out of it. Because it says that you have to provide at least 60 days notice prior to the last day of the then current term.
Right.
Well, if we're into a 5-year term, we're going to have to wait
Right.
a while. And so it's just,
If we're
that
2 months into a 5-year contract, we have to
Right.
wait till we're 2 months away from the end of that 5-year contract to terminate if we're
and that
happy
just to
with
me
it.
is like, for that reason alone, I would say there's no reason you should approve this contract under those terms, because it just, all the control is on their side, at least the way I read it. If you guys have things that you would be interested in, I can return to them. But again, I think the play right now is just to say, this was sort of a stock contract that wasn't individualized for communities. So it's not like they negotiated with this. I think we say like, yes, we're happy to talk, but we need to have an actual contract negotiation before this comes back.
And to your point, I think Nate and I are willing to do that. I'm sure when he communicates back what happened with this, that conversation will probably start, I would assume. So
Need
if,
a motion on anything?
well, that's what I was just going to ask. Do we need a motion to not? Or how do we?
I would probably recommend that, just to
Sure.
get on record.
Make a motion, we turn down the solid waste agreement.
Okay,
Say I'll second.
got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 16, discussion with possible action regarding Eckhart and Chapman Playground project.
Kale, if you want to give a little bit of a precursor, I got to pull the plans up.
Okay, I was gonna ask if you had them. I was gonna share my screen, but if you got them, that'd be great. So thank you very much. Just a lot to digest in the last couple of months for Eckhart Playground. We've had a series of public meetings for the playground, and we've got a lot of feedback. If you guys remember correctly, we were working with Lee Recreation. We did get out of the Leathers contract, as you guys remember. But in that time, we were working with Lee Recreation on a bunch of renderings. And from the public meetings, there was need for some changes. So during that time, we reached out to Play by Design. They were like a parent company of Leathers. And we've been working with them. So at our last meeting, we had a public meeting again, and we showed both options. On the screen was I would say 95% final from Lee Recreation. Again, both of the plans were not final in any way. We were making changes as we went. But we presented these to the community and got great feedback again. Play by Design, again, is more of a wood structure. It's composite decking, or not decking, but composite wood. And from the public meetings, that was by far the biggest thing the community wanted. They wanted to see kind of the same structure that we currently have. So again, we took that to Park and Rec, and they made a motion to switch from Lee Burke and continue working with Play by Design. Again, Play by Design, I would say it's not 100% final. There's some tweaks that have to be made, but it's the direction we want to go in. Play by Design uses all Burke equipment. So as you can kind of see, the layout and the slides and the play value is kind of all the same as Lee Recreation, because they utilize that same company the Lee Recreation does. I know Kim is there and Steve is there. If you guys want to jump in, please be happy to. But again, this design is pretty much the same as what we've showed in the past. We've extended it to the northwest a little bit to fit all the play structures we could in. We've went back and forth on the trees. You'll see that the 4 trees that are currently in the playground are still in the playground. So we're trying to save as many trees as we can. And
current plan has all trees saved for shade. But so again, update, not completely 100%. We still need to talk to Play by Design and, you know, come up with a few things. The fence is in there, but that is not included in the price. We were hoping a donation or in-kind donation of some sort, or they can sell pickets and we can sell pickets and fundraise for that if we do indeed put the whole fence in. At the last meeting, some of the public said maybe we don't need a whole fence. So those are some things that the leadership team still needs to be addressed. This would be, it can be both ways, community build or Play by Design can build it. The quote is for them to build it with a 75% or 75,000 off if we do a community build. That is my biggest thing right now, just in talking with some other companies that did a community build, and talking with Play by Design. He did mention, and the other community did mention, if you're going to do it, have the city not run it, because it is a lot of work. So we're exploring those options as well. As you can see, it came in at 746,000. But with the discount, if we do provide a community build, it drops it below 700,000. Like I said, we have a meeting tomorrow as a leadership team. We're going to discuss community build, starting fundraising, tearing down, what the timeline is for if we do tear down and look to build this in the spring. Like I had mentioned, we still need to talk to Play by Design and see if that's still a time that we can do it in the spring. So Steve, Kim, if you guys want to add anything, please do, or Nate.
Just add a couple of things. Angie and I have been pretty busy, and even Steve doesn't know all this in the last 5 days, but I do have potential contacts with the Lions and the Eagles with some interest in assisting with a community build. So I've already started on that aspect of it. This community build does not take near the number of people that the last one was way out of line. This one, and I can't remember the number, but it's a much smaller number. It's a doable number.
40.
40, yeah, 40 each day. So that is a very doable number. So we've already looked into those kind of things. We've looked into a sign for donors that would be done by a local artist that would have a dragon on the sign. So we've been working on that and the different materials and fonts and how that would look for donors. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot we can do once we start tomorrow. And I kind of sent out a tentative agenda already, and Kale and I met and went over all these things. So we got a lot of positives going forward. And I'm pretty sure, based on my initial conversations, I have more to have, that the Lions might be willing to be a big contributor to this project.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, this is essentially, they were the and Associates, part of Leathers and Associates. Leathers moved down to Florida. They stayed in Ithaca, so they're still in Ithaca, but they use Burke BCI, which is a Wisconsin company, for all their play apparatus. They were actually just building a playground in Janesville, so they do work in Wisconsin. There's one in Toma next to the ice rink. It's the farm. That's this company. So yeah, this is kind of, I think, what we intended to do a year and a half ago. but it took us a while to find the right company to work with. So far they've been easy to work with. They didn't make us sign a contract and are doing the design work pro bono. So already saving us some money there, but then we're able to give us 3D renderings, and the first one we got in 4 days. So they're committed. The guys that actually redlined the original documents from '96 for the current playground still work for this company. So they're attached to our playground just like we are. Just some history there. But as far as yeah, the community feedback was definitely in favor of this one. So
So at this point, similar to what we did before, we're just looking for the council's sort of approval to sort of switch designers, go with this new group based on the recommendation from Park and Rec Committee. And at this point, there is no contract. I know I saw Lori writing down some numbers on cost estimates. By no means is that a budget that we're looking for anybody to take action on it. Again, it's just essentially today is getting the approval from council to shift gears from Lee Recreation over to Play by Design.
Well, Cindy, I make a motion, we switch from Lee Recreation to Play by Design for the Eckhart Enchantment Playground Project.
Stagey, I'll second that.
Got a motion and second. Any other questions?
Yeah, what about the removal? Is that the city's responsibility to remove and dispose of the existing park?
That's something we need to discuss tomorrow. We've had a couple people interested in seeing if they could remove it by them, but we have to run that by city and if it's liability issues and all that. One option would be if the city could, the public works or city staff could help with tear down during the winter season where it's a little slower and less snow. So those are options we're discussing.
Okay.
And I also have made plans to have the dragon sketched, taken down, seeing if it's okay. And I also have a group through school that will fix it up so we can actually display that dragon again. So that will be done without any, we'll have to maybe have some cost for materials, but that's about it.
Thanks. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 17, discussion. Huh? Can I say something? Oh, discussion with possible action on ordinance. Oh, I'm wrong. No, all right. Revising section 1320-050 regarding sewer change charges, first reading.
Good evening.
Carol, where's this draft in the ordinance or draft in the packet? Did that make it in there? Or is that?
No, I asked Sarah and she said that because we've repeatedly have done this the last several years, it's just a simple change.
It was
So we didn't
probably
include
out of order in the
Oh,
packet because
okay.
I moved Cheryl up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did you include that in the packet? Okay.
There we go. I
Very-
thought so.
I did not know that. Perfect. So each time we increase the user rates, the sewer service charge system ordinance needs to be revised with the new rates as well. It's just a simple revision, and so effective October 1st, 2025, ordinance 13.20.050, and then if you want to go to 7D, we will increase, or the increase is the fixed base charge 6% to $20.02, and 6% per 100 cubic feet of usage would be to $6.56. And it would be up a couple pages from that. Number 7, and then D. Well, we're all, okay, go down. A, D, sorry, I misspoke. Keep going. Okay, then go up. It's really kind of weird how my thing is.
It's on
Because
page
I
2.
have it. Go to, keep going. Yeah, mine's, so it's the first page, second page. And it says 7 and D. So there's 7. Oh, you're missing a page. There you go.
Yeah.
You're missing a page.
Yeah.
Somebody double-sided it on me, dang it.
Is this AI? Yeah.
AI did it.
Yeah, I can do that. So that's for the sewer user charges. And then addition, for those of you who are looking that over, if you turn the page over, the rates that we charge the haulers who drop off the sewage from septic and porta potty holding tanks are also revised. This waste can have a greater strength than regular domestic waste and needs to be treated to the same standards as the domestic waste. But to offset the cost of the chemicals used to treat this sewage, Sarah has revised several years ago a series of calculations to be more reflective of actual costs for the chemicals. So to ensure we're covering those costs, we increase the sewer or those charges. Yep, on the one actually that Nate has up now. We increase those by 6% as well. And that would be the 13.20.050.7E, A through D, which is that page and then the next page. And that's the only thing that we're changing in this entire ordinance. It's just the rates
Okay, so 6% increase to the haulers and
and the customer users.
the customer users as highlighted on that page that's coming around.
Thanks, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Any questions?
I make a motion, we approve the ordinance revising section 13.20.050 regarding sewer charges and waives the second reading.
Sage, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Does everybody want to take a quick break or do you want to keep?
You want to try to fire through until we get to closed session?
That's what I was
Is everybody
thinking,
okay
but
with
I,
that?
last time I did that, I got. So yeah.
What is,
we'll move on to item number 18. Review and approval of change order number 3 for the fire station project.
All right. So this is change order number 3. I believe this should be the last one. There will be, I don't know if they're going to call it a change order, but it'll be ultimately them giving us back our contingency money, what was the balance. So with not knowing that quite yet, we didn't put it on this last one. So this is a lot shorter. The training tower one, is this the most updated one, Nate?
This is the old one. There
The
should be
old
a
one.
different one, Nate.
Okay. We're starting out strong here. So as he's looking for,
That's why we try not to do it too soon, but not too late because we get too many changes in between.
no,
this one in particular had quite a few updates to it, which I gave Devin a hard time and he was a good sport about it, but
He was.
I'll pull the next one, the right one up here.
oh, fair enough. As he's doing that, I'll start. So number 1 and 2 on there will be coming off this change order. And the reason why it's coming off of there is that painting won't be able to be done till spring because of the weather and the timing for the painter and things like that. So to be able to start closing out things with USDA and keeping things moving, money wise, we decided to pull that out, and then the city will pay it through the contingency money city side of things and keep Keller out of it. So that's the updated one should not have those. Yep. There you
Right,
go.
I was going to say, I thought we talked about it. Okay.
No,
good.
no, fair enough. Fair enough. Yep. Breathing air. So we moved our existing breathing air compressor, fill station, bottles, things like that from the old station to the new station. It was in the contract for the plumber to install all that and take care of it for us. let's just say it didn't go the way I was okay with. So that's actually a deduct. I told him I don't want him to touch it, pull it out, and I'll deal with it with our distributor out of Middleton. And so we did do that. So let's see, is that on there? It should be on there. Yeah. So number 8, let's jump down to number 8. So number 8 is the replacement of that from Jefferson Fire out of Middleton. They're actually the dealer for our SCBA system. So we did save $3,600 and ended up spending $2,500 to get it done right. So we're still to the good. Hardware change for interior doors. There was some issues with, of course, once all the locks and different things happen and you can touch it and see it, there were some changes that needed to be done. For $2,400, Keller split that 50-50 with us, so our share is $1,221.50. Number 4 is the final winter conditions for $11,136. A data switch. This was a $500 ad. The distance, there was a distance issue. I'm not technically savvy on this, but with length of data cable and things like that, after a certain distance, it loses strength or whatever communication. So they had to install a switch about halfway through, which then beefed that up, or beefed the signal up to get us, to the end. So that was something that got missed. I don't know if they rerouted something or whatever, but at the end of the day, we needed it to make it solid. That came through MCS. A lot of discussion was had with MCS, our IT company, and they said, yes, we need to do this to get what functionality we needed out of it. Number 6, closers and some door hardware changes. We're adding some more door closers on security type doors that got missed in the plans. So that was $2,884. Gear washer mounting and setting. So again, remember we did take our 2 gear washers from the current station to the new station. There was, in the spec, it wasn't spelled out exactly in detail enough to explain who was doing what with that move and install and hooking up and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, I told them to stop because I wasn't, again, impressed with how they were going to remedy the situation, and hired the company that we bought them from, and they charged us $1,519 to come up and do that for us. I should say down. They're from up by Minneapolis. Keller is also, due to the confusion or struggle, they're paying 50% of that bill. The plus and why I agreed with that is the fact that while they were here, they also did annual maintenance on them. And let's just say we're a little behind on that with those. So that would have cost us more than $760 if we would have paid them just to come and do that. So it's a true win-win for everybody. And Keller was willing to still, cover 50% because they felt obligated to be a part of that fix. And I already talked about 8. So it's a pretty short list. Subtracting out the winter conditions, not too much of an ask, I guess. So, questions?
Did we not address the winter conditions in previous change orders?
We have, so little by little throughout, we've covered it as bills have come through.
Okay.
So to my understanding, this is the last final one for rental of the temporary heat and cooling and humidity control and all that other stuff. So and then the utility costs. So they've been continually paying the gas and electric. And so now that's getting hopefully switched over out of their hands and into ours. So as long as we can get that to happen in the right time, then the city will be paying it directly. That should be the last piece, but I think that's part of it. Like, does that make sense? Kind of, sort of? Yeah. So this will be this is the 3rd change order. Each one has had that portions up to that point piece of that.
Thanks, Chad. Any questions? It's probably worth noting the reason this is going to be the last one is because we moved in there Monday.
We did. Last night they brought the trucks over, parked them, plugged them in and moved their gear. And so we had our first call out of
Yeah.
the new station this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, this morning.
11.
So, yep. It'll be a while.
There's still a lot of moving to
A lot.
happen, but just so the council knows that the department is operating out of the new facility from a response perspective.
Yep.
So, and the electrician finished, so everybody's pretty much
Getting close. Just
done,
little,
just little odds and ends. So it's we're there. So
This is Crystal. I would move approval of the change order number 3 for the fire station project.
Todd, I'll second the motion.
got a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
So that total is $15,440.14.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see it. Yeah, yeah. Oh, there it is. Yep. All right. Got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
and Steve.
Aye.
Right. Number 19, review and approval of pay request number 13 for the fire station.
All right. So we're getting down there. If you want to go down farther, Nate, I guess, on the detailed one, which you can hardly read. I hate how they did that, but Levi, there you go. See it much better. Levi from Beerbeckers and myself reviewed it. Had a conversation the other day. He did email me back saying he's good with it. Nothing really that jumped out again. Percentages seem good. You can start to see a lot of them getting to the 100% completion. A big chunk of this one is the I believe Matthew for the blacktop. You can find that one on there, Nate. I think that's the bigger one.
Right here.
Yeah, yep. Overhead doors kind of finished up. Again, I can hardly see them, but flooring, I think flooring was a big one. They finished up.
Yep, overhead doors is about 56.
Yep.
Cast in place concrete is interesting. What was that for? Because that seems late in the day for cast in place, but maybe I'm not.
I don't know. That's a Fowler one.
Yeah. Concrete work on the parking lot after they remedied the soils out in that corner.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have been Fowler. So they might have held back because we did have some concerns at one point with some of the concrete on the inside. Don't quote me on that, but I wonder if that's why they held off, just to confirm that everything was good and, that they weren't, cart before the horse type of thing. So I would suspect that that's why they're behind a little bit. BKC, that one I think's got a little bit left. That's the excavation. That's intentionally being not held back. I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. So we just want to make sure everything's solid with everything that they've done. There's a few things that they still have to accomplish, but it's getting really close. There's another one on there. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a few things that Keller's not happy with. I believe they're paid 100%, but their retainage is still there. And that'll be held until it gets remedied. Again, not a big deal, but making sure that everything is 100% before they see their money. So it's getting right down there. Devin has been currently trying to tie up the loose ends from Keller and working with Julie from USDA, and he's been talking to Nate, again, trying to do everything we can to make sure that it moves as smoothly and fast as possible, checking all the boxes. Yeah. Nate, do you think anything that you found or anything that I'm missing?
No, I saw that Levi had signed one. The copy here that you see on screen has not been signed by Levi, but Lori does have a now signed copy by him. She's holding up as proof. The pay request is for a cool 1.8 0.01 and change million dollars. So it's a larger pay request. I will say overall that the turnaround time from actually releasing payment. So let me say this, the turnaround time from when we approve it to when Julie reviews it to authorize Lori to cut a check is taking a while. That's why we're on this cadence of it. As soon as we get the pay request, get it to council because it gives Julie as much time to review it as she needs to before Keller absolutely needs to get paid, right? Because there's a clock, 40 days approximately. That's still taking a while. We're keeping an eye on it, but we haven't missed a deadline yet. The good news is that once Lori cuts a check and Julie approves Lori to do so, she immediately turns it around and submits it for reimbursement. And we're getting reimbursement on the money within a week,
Usually about 5 days.
5 days, right? So that's really great because I had budgeted a lot more time in between when we sent the money out and when the reimbursement came back. I had built in about a month, just not sure what to expect. And it's 5 days. So at this point, we've not used interim interest at all. It's been really solid. And so that'll help the cause in terms of that amount. We had budgeted around $15,000 or so for that, and we might end up having to spend 2 or 3. Yeah, I would have never guessed that's the way this would go, but good news. And so when you're looking at this $1.01 million, do understand that from a cash flow perspective, we're sitting in good shape. We've already exhausted all of our long-term debt proceeds, so now we're on Julie's time. We still may have to take out for this amount a loan, interim financing, but if it's flipped back within 5 days, the impact's minimal. So, and Lori and I usually make that decision when we finally get the conversation from USDA about what we need to do based on our current cash balance.
How many
Thanks.
more pay requests will there be and how close are we to budget here on all this?
Oh, yeah, from a budget standpoint, we're solid. I have not confirmed these numbers with Chad on where the budget's at per se, but if you give me a second, I can pull that up. Chad, is there anything else you had?
No, just, we at this point, we will be under budget.
Mhm.
I think we've done pretty good as far as finding places to reduce. At the same time, we found some things to obviously that have increased it or whatever, but overall, I think on that one change order 3, I think it said we have $185,000 left of the contingency alone. Then we have that other money for owner operator purchases or whatever. And so we've been starting to work through that now of getting things purchased and in place. That's looking solid. We've got a ways to go, but it's looking solid. So yeah, that's great, right? Because it's been a big project, long process and a fair amount of changes, a lot of them to the good. You remember day one, hour one, we ran into that black dirt issue, something is like, this is not going to be a fun year. But over time, we've been able to, work through some of that and adjust. We still have the black dirt, potential income that can come back in and work. I shouldn't say potential, that it's there. So we'll have some monies coming back that way, so overall with this big a project and with the head spinning the whole time or whatever, I'm pretty proud of everybody involved.
To answer your question, Todd, I would guess, and not having gone through this with Chad, I would guess around $150,000 is under budget is where we're going to land at this point.
He's more frugal than me, but
What?
we'll see.
I mean,
No, we're to the good.
I would
We're
say
to the good.
it's probably going to be at least $100,000. How much more than $100,000? I don't know at this point. So yeah. So what would we be looking?
This is AJ. I make a motion to approve the pay request number 13 for the fire station project to the amount of $1,013,227.14.
This is John, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Andrew.
Aye.
Todd Kirking.
All right.
Todd Spath.
Aye.
Cindy.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Crystal.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And Seth.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Item number 20, review and approval of pay request number 2. The salt shed.
Yep.
Not you. You can leave.
Hi. All right, Nate, are you gonna
Yep.
think you to scroll down? So the salt shed is well underway. Obviously all the concrete work is done. The trusses are up and the roof is going on. So the next step would be all the steel. So we're really within the home stretch. There'll be some sealing of the concrete on the inside and the asphalt. But like I said, we are on the home stretch. So this pay request, we've got some of the site grading work and the general construction. So it's a pretty straightforward contract. There's not a lot of detail. If you could scroll down, Nate, just a little bit. So the work done this period is that 185,000. And then we obviously apply our retainage to that. And so if you go up a little bit, you'll see that the current payment due is 175,750. Happy to answer questions, but pretty straightforward.
Sarah, who's in the driver's seat on this in terms of confirming pay requests? Is that Bierbecker?
Yeah, so they have an architect that works with them, Marty. He's the one that signed off on it there. You can see his signature.
Maybe that one. All right,
So he was a designer of the project. We haven't had them out there every day. They've come in and, at monumental moments and just gone through everything. So if you remember, we were trying to minimize, additional engineering cost on the project.
Cindy, I make a motion, we approve pay request number 2 for the salt shed project of $175,750.
I'll second it.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Todd Kirking.
All right.
Todd Spath.
Aye.
Cindy.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Crystal.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Seth.
Aye.
And Andrew.
Aye.
All right, item number 21, payment of the bills.
Make a motion, we pay the bills.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
AJ, I'll second.
There was
Motion and a second.
one change.
Yes.
Along with the bills, we wanted to make sure that you guys were made aware of, we did this in finance, but there's a Banco bill that in total would be $1,234.35 that we're asking for your preliminary approval pending review by the administrator. He received an email in regards to a delayed or a payment that was
You wanna go?
overdue. Go ahead, Nate,
Yeah.
if you want to explain.
So essentially there's 2 bills that are part of that total. One, we're aware of the work confirmed with Tyrell is for replacement of batteries and some of the mechanisms. They came in, there was a work order and explained it. And it's like, okay, great. There was another bill that was evidently from May for about $459 that has no information on whatsoever other than it says, see price quoted. And I reached out to them and I said, I don't know what this is. I don't recall receiving a bill in May. Can you please let me know? And so have not heard back from them yet, but if we are due to pay it, I would like to pay it because they did send me a nasty gram saying that if you don't pay this, we'll send you to collections. To which I said, what are you talking about? So we want to true up with them. I just need to have the necessary information on what this is all about. So we'll run that down, and if it is due to be paid, we'll be paying it.
So contingent upon that being ironed out.
Second.
All right. Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Todd Spath.
Aye.
Cindy.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Crystal.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Seth.
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
And Todd Kirking.
All right.
All right. Take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll pop into this closed session. We're good? All right. We are going to move on to item number 22, which is a possible closed session per Wisconsin statute 1985 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And this is regarding the police union bargaining contract.
This is time to make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
All right.
Todd Spath.
All right.